This is a quick reminder about how we add and subtract fractions. Now, in order to add and subtract fractions, the pieces must be the same size. So you cannot add thirds and fourths together without first converting them to things that are of the same basic size unit. So, for example, when we have 1/4 plus 2/4, that's easy because, well, if I have 1/4 and another 2/4, how many fourths do I have? I have 3/4, okay? But if the units are not the same size, that doesn't work. So we need to look at what happens on situations where the units are not the same size. So for example, if I need to add 1/4 and 2/3, well, these are fourths and these are thirds. I can't put them together unless I make them into pieces that have the same base unit of size. And the best way to do that is to create a least common denominator for the two fractions. The least common denominator is just the least common multiple of the two denominators. So if I've got a denominator of fourths and thirds, then I want to change both my 1/4 into 2/3 into fractions that are out of 12, because 12 is the least common denominator of 4 and 3. Now, you don't technically need to use the least common denominator, which would be the least common multiple. You can use any common denominator. So if you wanted to use 24 or 36 or anything like that, you can. You just are going to have to reduce your fraction at the end. If you use the least common denominator, you won't have to reduce your fraction at the end. Well, if I want to change my 1/4 into 12ths, I need to figure out how many 12ths that would be. And I know, well, 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 12 is 3 times bigger than 4. So I need to make my 1/4 into 3/12. For 2/3, 3 goes into 12 4 times. So 12 is 4 times bigger than 3. So I also have to make my 2 4 times bigger, which would be 8/12. Once I've got that, now I've got the same size pieces. If I have 3/12 and another 8/12, how many total 12ths do I have? I have 11/12. I don't need to reduce because I used the least common multiple for the least common denominator. If I didn't use the least common multiple for the least common denominator, I would have to reduce my fraction in the end. Okay? So let's look at subtracting. It's the same exact thing. Let's just create a new problem. Maybe 5/6 minus 2/3. Right? Up here I've got sixths, which are different from thirds. They're different size pieces. So before I subtract them, I need to rewrite both fractions so that they have the same size pieces. Well, the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. However, you could also use 12 or any other multiple of 3 and 6, but let's use 6 because it's the least common multiple. 5/6, I don't need to change that. I've already got 5/6, but I do need to change 2/3. Well, 3 goes into 6 2 times, so I know that I need to make this twice as big. So if 3 times 2 is 6, I also have to multiply 2 by 2, and I get 4/6. So 2/3 and 4/6 are equivalent fractions. They're the same fraction, just written in a different way. Now I can go ahead and subtract. I've got 5/6, and I'm taking away 4/6. How many 6 am I going to have left? 1/6. So that's a basic review of how you add and subtract fractions with unlike denominators.